Have you ever wondered why China seems so interested in the West Philippine Sea? This vast body of water, part of the larger South China Sea, is more than just a picturesque seascape. It's a treasure trove of natural resources and a vital artery for international trade. Now let's dive into the basics. The West Philippine Sea is nestled in the western part of the Philippines, bordered by several other Southeast Asian countries. It's a region of vast economic importance, hosting one of the busiest sea lanes in the world. Imagine a highway but for ships where a third of the world's shipping sails through. Now that's a strategic gold mine, but it's not just about trade routes. Beneath the shimmering waves lies an abundance of resources. The seabed is rich with oil and gas reserves, while the waters teem with a diverse array of marine life. It's like an underwater banquet waiting to be served. So, why is China here? Well, in recent years, China has been asserting its claim over the majority of the South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea. These claims are based on historical arguments, but they're contested by several other countries, including the Philippines. China's actions in the region have been a source of tension. They've been building artificial islands, conducting military exercises, and even harassing Filipino fishermen. It's like a neighborhood bully claiming the whole playground for themselves. But this isn't just a local issue. The West Philippine Sea is a global concern, affecting not only the countries directly involved, but also others who rely on these waters for trade and resources. The stakes are high, and the world is watching. Now here's a thought. What would happen if the Philippines, a smaller but equally determined player, decides to stand its ground against the giant that is China? Could this lead to an escalation or even a full-blown war? And what role would the international community play in this high-stakes game of territorial chess? Keep watching until the end for the answer to these riveting questions. And while you're here, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and like this video. We've got plenty more to explore. Why does China insist on its sovereignty over these waters? A question that has been echoing around the globe. To understand this, we delve into the historical claims that China holds over the West Philippine Sea. China's claim is largely based on a map known as the 9-dash line. A demarcation, they assert, defines their territory. This line encompasses about 86% of the South China Sea, extending far beyond its mainland and brushing against the coastal borders of several Southeast Asian countries, including the Philippines. But the 9-dash line isn't the only card in China's deck. They also reference ancient maps and historical narratives as evidence of their sovereignty. These maps, some dating back centuries, depict the South China Sea as a part of China's territory. The narratives they weave tell tales of Chinese fishermen and explorers venturing into these waters, further asserting their historical connection. However, the use of ancient maps and historical narratives to stake territorial claims isn't exactly a universally accepted practice. This is where international law steps in. According to the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea, or UNCLOS, territorial claims over waters must be based on land features, not historical narratives or old maps. UNCLOS also defines a country's exclusive economic zone, or EEZ, which extends 200 nautical miles from its coast. The waters within this zone belong to that country alone, and it has exclusive rights to all natural resources therein. But here's the rub. China's 9-dash line and the Philippines' EEZ overlap. And this is where the West Philippine Sea dispute stems from. China's historical claims, as per their interpretation, clashes with the international laws that the rest of the world acknowledges. But what does the international community say about these claims? This, my friends, is a question that leads us to the next chapter of our journey. Stay tuned as we explore the international response to these historical claims. The world is watching. What is their reaction to this territorial dispute? The international stage has not been silent on China's actions in the West Philippine Sea, with many countries and organizations voicing their concerns. For starters, let's examine the rulings of international courts. The Permanent Court of Arbitration in The Hague, in a landmark ruling in July of 2016, invalidated China's claims to almost the entire South China Sea, including the West Philippine Sea. The court stated that China's claims violated the Philippines' sovereign rights in its exclusive economic zone. But how has China reacted to this? In defiance, China has refused to accept or recognize the ruling, continuing its activities in the disputed waters. This disregard for international law has drawn sharp criticism from other countries. The United States, a longtime ally of the Philippines, has reiterated its commitment to the defense of the Philippines, stating that any armed attack on Filipino vessels or aircraft in the South China Sea would trigger mutual defense obligations. Australia, Japan, and several European countries have also expressed their support for the arbitration ruling and called for the peaceful resolution of the dispute, respecting international law. But it's not just the big players. Several ASEAN countries, while maintaining a diplomatic stance, have expressed their concerns about China's aggressive actions, signaling a growing unease within the region. The United Nations, too, has had its say, with Secretary General Antonio Guterres emphasizing the importance of upholding international law and resolving disputes through peaceful means. Despite these international responses, China's actions in the West Philippine Sea persist, raising the stakes in this geopolitical chessboard. The world watches, waits, and wonders, like, will this tension simmer down or boil over? And yet, the tension persists. Could this escalate into a full-blown war? The answer to that question carries heavy implications, not just for the Philippines and China, but for the entire world. So, let's delve deeper into that in our next scene. As the pieces move on this global chessboard, one thing is certain: the world will continue to watch. War is a heavy word. Could this dispute really lead to such a drastic outcome? It might seem far-fetched, but let's entertain the idea for a moment. What could happen if the Philippines decides to stand its ground, to fight back? Let's start by examining the military prowess of both nations. China, being the economic powerhouse that it is, has a military force to match. A robust army, a navy with a growing fleet of vessels, a modern air force, and a nuclear arsenal. On the other hand, the Philippines, though spirited and resilient, has a comparably smaller military force, with limited resources and capabilities. This stark difference in power might make the idea of a military confrontation seem daunting, even insurmountable for the Philippines. But let's not forget the role of allies in such scenarios. The Philippines, being a long-standing ally of the United States, could potentially call upon this partnership for support. The US has a vested interest in maintaining stability in the region, and their involvement could tip the scales. It's a complex chess game of geopolitics, where every move has far-reaching implications. However, the question remains, would this escalate into a full-blown war? History has shown us that disputes over territories have often been the trigger for major conflicts. And yet in an interconnected world where economies and societies are so intertwined, the cost of war is not just counted in the loss of lives and destruction of infrastructure. It's also measured in economic downturns, in severed diplomatic ties, and in the collective human suffering that war inevitably brings. But is war the only solution? Or could there be a peaceful resolution? The prospect of war is sobering, but it's critical to remember that it's not the only path. In our next scene, we'll explore the potential avenues for peaceful resolution, because as the old saying goes, the pen is mightier than the sword. So could the pen prove mightier in the West Philippine Sea dispute as well? Stay tuned to find out. In a world that's already filled with conflict, is there a way to peacefully resolve this dispute? Absolutely, and it's not as complicated as one might think. You see, the first step towards resolution is understanding. We need to understand that the West Philippine Sea dispute is not just about territorial claims, but also about the livelihood of millions of people and the preservation of a fragile ecosystem. Diplomatic negotiations could be the key here. Both China and the Philippines, with their long history of cultural and economic ties, can come to the table, acknowledge each other's perspectives, and work towards a mutually beneficial agreement. However, these negotiations should be based on the principles of equality and mutual respect, not on the might is right approach. Involvement of international bodies could also play a significant role. The United Nations, with its mandate to maintain international peace and security, can facilitate dialogues and mediate negotiations. The International Court of Justice, on the other hand, can provide legal resolutions based on international law. Potential compromises can also be explored. Perhaps joint exploration and sharing of resources could be a viable option. After all, the sea is vast and abundant, and there's enough for everyone if managed and used sustainably. But remember, any resolution should not compromise the sovereignty and territorial integrity of any country. It should not endanger the lives of innocent people or destroy the environment. It should promote peace, justice, and cooperation, not breed animosity, fear, and conflict. And that's the answer to our earlier question. Fighting back doesn't always mean going to war. Sometimes it means standing up for your rights and seeking justice through peaceful means. So let's challenge the narrative. Let's question the status quo. Let's envision a world where disputes are resolved not through force or intimidation, but through dialogue, understanding, and mutual respect. Keep wondering, keep questioning, and remember, knowledge is power. Together, we can make a difference. So subscribe for more amazing content and join us in this journey of discovery and enlightenment. Don't miss out on future explorations and discoveries. Hit subscribe and ring the bell to stay updated with our new content. Your journey of wonder continues with every video. Stay connected and engaged on social media. Continue the conversation, follow us. Thank you for being a part of the Have You Ever Wondered community. Keep wondering, keep discovering. Until next time.